over the last 24 hours. I'm delighted to be joined this morning in the studio by my guest, Dr. Freddy Elbaiady, the former Resigned Member of Parliament. It's a very good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning to you.
Right, Doctor, let's begin straight away with Al-Ahram. And the main headline reads, the Egyptian Apache target terrorists in Sinai. 25 killed and wounded and the destruction of a weapons and ammunition depot. Elbaiady says the cabinet fully supports the armed forces to achieve stability. Israeli media confirms the Egyptian version of the events. Military experts stress that the Egyptian armed forces are carrying out their plans in Sinai extremely accurately and that gains are taking place on the ground every day. Dr. Freddy, of course, the same issue was tackled in Masri al-Yawm. Also, the decisive hour approaches in Sinai. The army targets armed terrorists outside residential areas. 25 killed and injured in the aerial bombardment south of Sheikh Zayed. Military spokesman says we are working silently in coordination with the police to chase terrorists. The interim Prime Minister Hazem Elbaiady reiterates the government's support to the Egyptian armed forces in its war against terror in the Sinai Peninsula. Now, there are a lot of developments on the ground when it comes to Sinai, El Arish and Sheikh Zayed, and we've seen the army really stepping up their attacks on militants and terrorists that are hiding out and carrying out acts of terror, actually, and bombings and bombardments in the area. How do you analyze the developments on the ground?
Well, Sinai has special historical and geographical nature. It has been for a long time a place for groups of terrorists, and geographically it's really difficult geographical nature because of the mountains and the caves there. So they find an easy place to hide in.
Right.
That's why it harbors different groups of terrorists. And along the history of when political conditions escalate, we see that accidents happen in this area and groups hide in this area. So it's a war against terrorism now, and that's why the military is using all the power they can use, including the helicopters and all this kind of heavy tools to fight against these difficult terrorist groups. And we see that in the past time they have done some terroristic attacks against the army and the police and some governmental institutions and churches in this area. So I'm sure that it will take some time, but the military and the army and the police, they are able to control this situation.
But doctor, how much time? I mean, I know we're always in a rush to see action on the ground, but I mean, the situation in Sinai is very critical, and the army is keeping up to touch with the events. However, people are expecting it to be done in a couple of weeks, couple of days. I mean, they expect a quick result. But how long do you actually think that this war on terrorism will last?
Well, I can't tell a clear estimation of how long in days, but it will take some time, of course, because it's not a difficult thing. You are fighting, or the army is fighting with a hidden group. They are not, it's not a clear war, but they are hidden in caves and in mountains. And they come and hide again. It's a really difficult situation. So I believe it will be a little bit long time, but finally they will have control over the situation.
Right. Dr. Freddy, let's go back to Al-Ahram, and we read, worries among sit-inners, quiet movements by the police and intensifying security at the airport. The Ministry of Electricity says we will not cut off power in the areas of the sit-ins and repairing Rabaa power problem in 55 minutes. The power cuts scared the Rabaa sit-inners, and security formations start their siege. Wide political condemnation for the refusal of the Muslim Brotherhood to join the National Reconciliation. The Dastoor party says the Brotherhood is ready to form alliances with any enemy to return to power, regardless of the interests of the nation. Doctor, the same issue was tackled in Masri al-Yawm. 55 minutes of darkness frightened Rabaa sit-inners, and the Ministry of Interior prepares to end the sit-in soon. Supporters of the deposed president cut the metro line and threaten to occupy Tahrir Square. And Tahrir Square and the media production city are alternatives for the sit-ins of the Brotherhood in Rabaa and Nahda. And Nahda sit-inners use flammable substances and sticks to face attempts to end the sit-in, and the Brotherhood says cutting water and electricity and preventing food from reaching sit-ins is against human rights. and they placed 4 cameras to monitor Cairo University. It seems that the Muslim Brotherhood are really upping their monitoring devices, and they're also speaking about human rights, so which is interesting since they have women and children on the streets.
Yeah.
So
I believe they are doing many things against human rights, using the children in these demonstrations. Especially, we heard about children coming out of orphanages, and they have been clearly used for the purpose of these demonstrations. And actually staying in this place and blocking the neighborhood and the people from going to their work and moving freely to their houses and in and out, it's all against human rights. So I wonder how they're speaking now about human rights. I don't know about this electricity cut-off, if it was accidentally or intentionally done, but it was for a short time. And of course they were scared. They thought the army or the police is going to interfere and going to attack them at this time, but nobody attacked them. It was just for a short time, and then it came back again. But this describes the situation there. It's a very intense situation. The people outside, they are expecting the army to interfere and to break this situation or these demonstrations, to end it in a way or another. And they are inside, and they are expecting that the army will do this at any time. So it's a very intense situation, and we hope it can end very soon with the least loss or injuries.
Indeed. Doctor, now, of course, Al-Azhar is trying to lead a national reconciliation initiative, trying to reach out to all political parties, etc. However, the Muslim Brotherhood are refusing to enter into any talks, into any reconciliation attempts. Where do you think that this will lead if they continue to refuse and even go as far as the Dastur party says to form alliances with any enemy just to return back to power?
Yeah. You see, there's a stumbling block here. They are doing. They stopped at a certain point. They want the power back, and all the attempts of reconciliation. They passed this step. They are not in power anymore. We are in a revolution state, and they were removed out of power, not because of the military wants it, but because the millions of the people who went on the streets, the demonstrations, and the majority of the people, they were actually fed up, and they removed them from the power. Of course, the army helped in this, but now they have to admit that they are not in power anymore. And if they accept this point, then they can go on in any attempts of reconciliation. But since they are stopping at this point and they are not accepting any other alternative, or they are not accepting this fact that they are not in power anymore, they will not actually join any reconciliation attempt.
Right. Doctor, let's go back to Al-Ahram, and we read a week full of trials for both Mubarak and the Brotherhood. Also, the same issue made headlines in Al-Masri Al-Yawm, and from Al-Masri Al-Yawm we read, the police academy readies Mubarak's cage for the Brotherhood, resuming the trial of the century on Saturday. The session of the trial of both Mohammed Badia and Khairat al-Shatir is to take place on August the 25th, and this is an interesting development. It seems to be a week of trials for not just the old regime, but also the older regime when it comes to Hosni Mubarak. How do you see these trials, especially that there's been calls for justice?
It's really interesting when you see that both regimes are on trial at the same time.
In the same cage.
It went very fast, actually. Many people didn't expect that it would go that fast, and this regime after Mubarak will be removed very soon. But this is what happened, and now we have trials for both regimes. We can't comment a lot about the judgment system, but we believe that we have a fair judgment system, and we hope that both regimes will have fair trials, and they will be actually, if there are any judgments, it will be by the law, and they will have their chances for their lawyers to defend them. And we are expecting a fair trial and expecting the results.
And Doctor, there's a lot of people wondering that there's still a lot of leaders or main figures from the Muslim Brotherhood that have not yet been arrested, that have living proof on tape sound and video footage inciting violence, or saying, for example, that the attacks in Sinai will only stop when the deposed president is reinstated. And a lot of them are still not under arrest and no trials are pending against them. How do you see this as hampering the process when it comes to relieving the tensions on the ground?
Yeah, of course, this situation is another complicated situation, and they're actually trying to negotiate that these people can escape judgment in a kind of deal with the system. I don't believe in letting those who committed crimes or were actually part of a crime to be set free.
A deal for what? A deal to end the protest, the sit-ins?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe those who committed crimes, they have to be actually under trial, under fair trial. Those who are in the protests and they were not involved in crimes, they have the right to be set free and to be participating back in life. But it can be part of any deal to set those, especially who were involved in violence crimes or murders, or urged others to commit murders.
And of course there's been a call to re-invite the Muslim Brotherhood in the political scene once things return back to normal and there's elections or whatever. They are welcome to reintegrate into politics in Egypt, yet they resist this.
Yeah, but I believe this call is a theoretical call, but actually the political organization of Muslim Brotherhood, it started to end at the day they started to be in power. And it finally ended on June 30th. When they were removed out of power. So I don't believe they have a future political life, but they can be actually involved maybe as individuals in other political parties, but not as the same title as Muslim Brotherhood organization.
So do you think this will push them to go back underground?
It might be, yeah.
Right, Doctor, let's go to Al-Masri Al-Yawm, and we read from page 3. The public prosecution requests the investigations of the national security regarding the assassination list, including the name of the defense minister Sisi, amongst other public and political figures. Also, 16 wounded and 4 houses and a church building burnt in sectarian clashes in Bani Suef. Thousands celebrate ending the sectarian strife in Minya, and a worker accuses his wife of receiving money to use his son in the coffins demonstrations in Rabaa and Nahda. Now, there's obviously a lot of details. First and foremost, the public prosecution requests the investigation of the national security regarding the assassination list, which includes the General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
Of course, now the supporters of the former president, they have their enemies, and they have aligned with some violent groups who are expecting to act violently and commit some murders or assassinations. So it's expected that the head of the army, General Sisi, is their first on the list. And I believe all those who participated in the revolution, they come under the list. But this will not scare the people anymore. And actually, there should be some investigations, and if this is really prove that people were planning for assassination, they should be arrested and judged for this. It's kind of scaring everybody not to attack them, but I don't believe this will result in scaring or stopping people from speaking or acting freely against the behavior that's not accepted anymore.
Right. And of course, 16 wounded and 4 houses and a church building in Bani Suef attack. Again, we are seeing religious buildings. We're seeing specific sects in society being attacked. And this is increasing the strife, really.
Actually, it has been for a long time that Christians pay the bill. Whenever there are political clashes and hot issues coming on, the Christians pay the bill. And to be honest, this is not only started during the removed president's time, but it was even before that. And of course, the previous government didn't stop it, and still till this day, it's going on. The attacks against Christians happen when there are political situations, political clashes. we should admit that there are some seeds of sectarial fundamentalism, and we should actually tackle these points or tackle this fundamentalism seeds in a long range, in a long plan, including the education, the way of the media speech. It will take some time, but we should first admit that there is a problem, and we should actually try to tackle it not only by arresting the people. This is important to have a law, and the police should interfere to stop any violence or any Egyptian being attacked or killed, but also we should have some long-term plans to again reconcile the Egyptians and to have the equality of Egyptian citizens regardless of their political background or their religious backgrounds.
Indeed. Right, Doctor, let's move to Al-Ahram. We read, finally, the U.S. Embassy opens its doors and the consulate services are affected by the current situation. Dr. Freddy, the same issue was tackled in Al-Masri Al-Yawm, and from Al-Masri Al-Yawm we read, resuming work at the U.S. Embassy under the protection of both the army and the police. A source says that most of the U.S. Embassy staff left the country due to the current events. However, the embassy has opened its doors and services are resuming bit by bit. How would you read this development?
Well, it's good that they are back now to work, but they have been under threats, and I believe they are still under threats. And this is usually the expected result when they have some deals with groups who are involved in terrorism or in violence. They were actually, in a way or another, supporting them, the U.S. administration. Now they started to a little bit to shift away, and the Congress has shifted away from supporting these groups, so they started to threat them. This is an expected result when you deal with such groups. We hope that there will be good protection. We hope that the peace will be actually in the area, because I know that these threats are in all the Middle East, not only in Egypt.
Right.
And all their embassies were closed in all the Middle East area. So we hope that they can be back to work, and safety is back to them, and the police and the authorities are actually protecting them in a good way.
Indeed. Dr. Freddy Elbaiady, a former resigned member of Parliament, thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning in the press review.
Thank you. Good morning.
And ladies and gentlemen, we now take you quickly to a roundup of the recent developments with our top stories on top of the hour, and we'll be right back for more on The Breakfast Show. Stay tuned. Interim Prime Minister Hazem Al-Biblawi reiterated the government's support to the Egyptian armed forces in its war against terror in the Sinai Peninsula. In a statement, the Premier said that the